So, hello YouTube. We just wanted to take a moment to stop in front of the bust of Harvey Milk to talk about the experience that we had today interviewing Scott Wiener. We're here in San Francisco City Hall, which is the building wherein not only Harvey served, but him and Mayor Moscone died. This is the first time I've ever actually been here, so it's kind of an amazing experience for me. Not only is the building itself beautiful, it really is an amazing space, not only because of Harvey and the gay history here, but this is a place where a lot of the very first same-sex weddings happened once they became legal. There's a lot of history in this room that I'm walking through, and it's amazing just to be here in this space. Even more so to have the opportunity to interview Scott Wiener, who is a very nice, very personable guy who has what I feel a very difficult job to do. And all the conversation about the nudity ban has been so angry and emotional and polarizing that people don't often appreciate it just for the facts of the story or for something a little more balanced. Hello YouTube. One of the great things we get to do with our channel is to interview some extraordinary people, and today I have another extraordinary person here with me today. We're sitting with Scott Wiener, who is City Supervisor for District 8 of San Francisco, which some of you may know was Harvey Milk's district when he was a city supervisor. So, hello Scott.
Well,
thanks for taking some time out of your day to sit with us.
Thanks for coming over.
Great. So, a lot of people who may have heard about you in the news probably would have done so for the controversy over the nudity ban. But I would like to take that and put that aside for just a moment and talk about life being an out gay man and a politician. And first off, I mean, I understand that you're not native to San Francisco, right? So you were from southern New Jersey?
Southern New Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia.
So how was that coming out in southern New Jersey back?
Well, it was it's a pretty conservative place. It's South Jersey was very rural when my family first moved there. And just we were, as Jews, we were in a small minority, and there was a lot of discrimination, and if you weren't exactly like everyone else. And but for me, it was a little bit easier because I have lesbians in the family. My mother's sister is a lesbian who came out in the 60s before Stonewall.
Oh, nice.
And I have a cousin on my father's side who was a lesbian, and we actually had one of my mother's cousins was transgender. So we always had LGBT people around, and so in my family it was always good. But more broadly, like in South Jersey, it just was not particularly pro-gay area.
So did having other LGBT people in your family make it easier for you to come to terms with yourself?
It did. It still took me to age 20 to come out, which I guess back then, in 1990, it was still relatively young, but compared to today when kids are coming out so young, I feel like I came out older.
I'm kind of the same way. I didn't come out till I was about 21, 22, and you hear about kids who knew when they were like 7, and I'm like, how?
I know.
I still wanted to play with G.I. Joes then. So now, what prompted you to come to San Francisco?
Well, I had always assumed that I was going to settle back in the Philadelphia area where my family is. And but I came out here. I'd been out here once in the early '90s when a friend got married on the peninsula, and I remember coming to the Castro for a day just to visit, and coming up from the subway, being at Castro Market, seeing the Castro Theater, seeing Twin Peaks Tavern, seeing gay people all around the neighborhood, and working in gay people working in these stores, and it blew me away. I had never seen anything like it before, and it made me want to come back. And so I spent summer in 1995 working here, and then after law school I decided I wanted to come out here, and so I came out in 1997.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have experiences like that in San Francisco, where you come from this little tiny community. I mean, I'm from an hour north of here, and I had pretty much the same experience coming here for the first time. Right?
Yeah.
There's like gay people everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm not alone. And so you came here in
97.
97.
Yeah.
Okay. And then worked as an attorney for those years. What prompted the move into, considering being a city supervisor?
Well, when I came out here, I was practicing law first in private practice, and then as a trial lawyer at the city attorney's office. But I've always been, as my mother would say, a joiner. So I was involved politically somewhat as a kid and in college. And when I came out here, I wanted to connect with the community, and so I got involved with the LGBT Community Center, which did not exist at the time. We never had an LGBT center in San Francisco, and so I got involved with the effort to raise money and to build it, and spent years and years with a group of people raising the money, getting the building built, getting it open, hiring the first 2 executive directors, and so that was really how I entered the LGBT community here, and the center is still like a little baby to me.
Yeah.
One of the people who helped give it birth, and so I care really deeply about it. And I was involved in different LGBT non-political efforts, but I had developed a relationship with Mark Leno, who's a state senator here, who used to have the seat that I have now on the Board of Supervisors. And I got to know him outside of politics, and I would volunteer on his campaigns. And he's always been a mentor to me. And I started getting more and more involved politically, and involved in the Democratic Party over time. And then when the seat, when I knew, because of term limits, that it was going to come open, some people encouraged me to run, and I thought about it, and I decided that it made sense, because I care about the city, and this is I think a great way to make change.
And it seems like you've developed a reputation as the guy that gets things done. I've read that in one article, and I have to admit, living as close to the city as I have, city politics seems just Byzantine sometimes. So being somebody who can cut through red tape and get things done probably puts you in a really positive light with a lot of people, I would imagine. But it seems like the thing that has put you in the news lately has been the ordinance that you wrote about, public nudity. So I don't think people realize that there is an extensive list of other projects that you've made happen.
Yeah.
But why did you choose to pick that particular battle?
Well, it's interesting, and I think public nudity, that legislation will definitely be written on my tombstone. It became this international sensation, and I totally I get that people are it's a scintillating issue for people, but I thank you for mentioning that. I work on a lot of different issues. Transportation and housing are really the areas that I work on the most, as well as sort of reducing red tape for small businesses to help them succeed, and park issues, and a lot of different infrastructure issues. But the thing is, when you're it's one of the great things about being in local government like this. When you're a member of the Board of Supervisors or a city council or any kind of local government, you work on big issues, but you have to deal with smaller things that pop up in the neighborhoods that you represent. There's always been public nudity in San Francisco, sporadic, naked guy walking through a neighborhood. No one really ever cared. It was not a big deal at all. And then right around the time that I took office, it was almost exactly, right before I took office, it changed, and all of a sudden it became more of a 7-day-a-week thing in the Castro. And you had some guys who live in the area, but then you had guys that were coming in from all over the Bay Area, who were driving from Walnut Creek or Santa Rosa, because they couldn't do it where they lived, so they would come here. And there were times when there were 8, 10, as many, I saw 14 of them once just hanging out around Castro Market. And it was in that plaza there, but they were walking all through the neighborhood. They were walking by schools. And I think some of them did it in a provocative way where they wanted the kids to see them. They were, in more and more different parts of the neighborhood. And it just got extreme. And there were people who thought it was quirky or funny when it first started and just part of San Francisco, and who over time, over a 2-year period, just got incredibly frustrated because, the Castro is a place of freedom where we all embrace diversity, but it's also a neighborhood where, people live and people work and people raise families, where we have public schools, and it's a place where we all have to learn to live together. And so it was causing a lot of frustration in the neighborhood. And this is not the issue that I wanted to work on when I came into office, suffice it to say. And for 2 years, almost 2 years, I resisted calls and there were a lot of people who were very, very angry about this and were really going after me for not taking action to ban it. And I resisted because I didn't want to do the legislation. I wanted to just let it run its course and go back to the way it had been, occasional public nudity. And instead, it just kept getting more extreme, more and more regular. They started wearing, cock rings and doing, other even more, really inappropriate things. And so it got to the point where they were their own worst enemies. They turned public opinion against them, and I thought it was necessary to take action.
Okay. So, and I know that that's gotten you some heat from other gay voices in the community too. Hearing you put it out there like that, it sort of makes perfect sense. But are there people out there who I think come at this issue from a really emotional place and just get too heated to really acknowledge, the practical impact?
I think this issue was extremely emotional on both sides. There were a lot of people who were just absolutely horrified that this was happening in their neighborhood, and there were, frankly, some people tried to make this very much a gay issue. These were straight people complaining about nudity, and it was an anti-gay thing, which was absolutely not the case. The dominant demographic of the people who were complaining about this were gay men living in the Castro. Gay men who didn't have kids, who just lived in the Castro, and would make comments to me like, "This isn't what we fought for." Yeah. And so this really, some people tried to paint this as a gay issue. It wasn't a gay issue, and a number of the guys who were getting naked at Castro Market were straight. They were gay and straight. But there was a lot of emotion in the people who were opposed to it. And then for the people who supported it, I think there was also a lot of emotion involved, which I totally understood and respected. About for a lot of us, we came to San Francisco to be who we are. We couldn't be who we are where we were from, and so we came here because of how accepting the city is. And people who might be considered freaks elsewhere were embraced here. And so that's part of San Francisco. And so there were people who really felt like by restricting public nudity, we were preventing people from being who they are and going to the heart of what San Francisco is. And my response to that was, the situation we had was getting so extreme that the spirit of San Francisco is not about just doing whatever pops into your head at any time, no matter what the impact on other people is. And so I felt like this struck a good balance. We still, this legislation, you can still get naked on beaches, at street fairs, at parades, and people can still wear assless chaps if they want to, because it doesn't cover buttocks.
Right.
So we tried to keep it really limited.
Okay. I think that's a perception that the rest of the U.S. really has of San Francisco, is it's just do whatever you want to do kind of city. And hopefully now you understand that it's mostly not that way. So Now, being an out gay man, do you feel like that affects how you do your job as a city supervisor at all?
Well, yes. I mean, I always, as a gay man, as someone who's worked in the LGBT community, that clearly is something that's very important to me to support our community. I also always keep in mind that I represent a very diverse district with, which frankly is not a majority gay, it's a majority straight, and I have to represent everyone in the district. Also, there are a lot of issues that whether it's having good public transportation or job creation or affordable housing, those cut across gay, straight, and that those are the top priorities for a lot of people, regardless of whether they're gay or straight. But I feel a responsibility, a very deep responsibility, representing the district of Harvey Milk, representing the Castro, to always take leadership on a lot of issues that affect the LGBT community.
Right.
So I always take the lead, working with my colleague Supervisor Campos, to make sure that there are no cuts to HIV funding, either locally or as unfortunately been happening now, the federal government is cutting HIV funding for San Francisco, and so every year, as a member of the budget committee, I really fight hard and take a strong lead in making sure that we compensate for that locally, so that there are no cuts to HIV services in San Francisco. When our universal health program in San Francisco was not providing full coverage to transgender people, I felt like it was important for me to take the lead, to work with the community and with the department to change that, to get full health care benefits for transgender people.
Absolutely.
Working on LGBT senior issues, LGBT youth issues. Given my background and where I represent, I think it's very important for me to be a strong voice for the community.
Okay, and one more question. There have been a lot of people in the news lately, both from sports and politics, that have come out of the closet or almost come out of the closet or been forced out of the closet. Being out has been kind of a big conversation lately. Do you feel like it's something that a politician who's gay should be out?
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes because, and this is starting to change now, but because there have usually not been that many out politicians, for those of us who are out, sometimes it's very tempting for the rest of the world or the rest of the political world to view us as you're the gay supervisor, or you're the gay congressman, or you're the gay this or the gay that. And I don't have any problem being identified as the gay supervisor, but the fact is, the work I do, or that really any out elected official is so much broader than that. And so you don't, you don't want to be marginalized, as this is all you are. You're just the gay supervisor. And so the more people who are in elected office who are out, the less that happens. And so having, Tammy Baldwin in the Senate now, having, more and more out members of Congress is incredibly important. And we still have so many strides to make. I mean, the fact that in San Francisco we've never had a gay mayor, we've never had a gay member of Congress representing San Francisco. We have a ton of work to do. And we, looking at the future, even in San Francisco, I can see some political scenarios in the next 5-10 years where we may only have one member of the Board of Supervisors out of 11 who's gay in San Francisco,
okay.
Or we may not have any LGBT representation from San Francisco in the state legislature. And so if we're not careful, even in San Francisco, we could really lose ground. And so people need to be out. We need to be cultivating the next generation of political leadership, and be very conscious about that to protect our community.
Well, I think you're leaving a good legacy behind for people to follow.
Thank you.
So thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
And I believe that its way through the current as the waves crash down.